Boom. All right, we're back. It's been a minute. It's been a long minute. It's been a long, hot minute since I've done a SitRep. I don't know, a few days, 4 days. But anyway, here it is. The SitRep for today, the 20th of October, 2022. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. If you haven't come across this before, if this is your first time staring at this and going, what the fuck is a SitRep? Pardon the French. This is where I go through news stories that I've found over the past, little while. Now it'll be like 4 or 5 days, or that people have sent in to me, and talk about it from the perspective of prepping, being prepared, or as I was discussing with one of the people that I often discuss things with, it's really about risk management, which is actually something that I teach on the courses quite a bit, especially the courses that I give to diplomats. We have to talk about risk management and the actual model for risk management. I like to say that even though I work in the security world, what I actually work in is risk management. It's just a different risk that most people are used to. But essentially, it's the same sort of stuff. I look at the likelihood and the consequence of things happening, try and predict what that might be, what the likelihood of something happening is going to be, what the consequence of that thing happening, if it did happen, what that's going to be, and then plan accordingly to try and mitigate that risk as best as possible. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what the SitRep, the situation report, is all about. You and me, we're looking at the news. We're trying to see what's coming down the pipeline at us. We're trying to test the wind, as it were, and figure out which way is it blowing? What do we got to do? What should we prepare for? How can we best prepare ourselves for some sort of disaster, or just the circumstances of life as we see it at the moment? So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're doing today. Obviously, I'm in a hotel room. I'm traveling, working, but I'm trying to do this as best as possible. I'm used to my matrix setup where I've got a big screen, and now I'm trying to fit like 3 or 4 screens and a phone in front of me. So anyway, thank you for joining me. The short part of that was thank you for joining me. Whether you're watching this on Instagram, on YouTube's, or listening to the audio version via your favorite podcast. Let's jump into it today. Let's talk about Alaskan snow crabs. Is that what they're called? Yeah, Alaskan snow crabs. They've called it off. They've called the season off. So I've got a friend over in the States. I call them my States family. They live over in Colorado. The father actually worked on the trawlers up in Alaska for a little bit, for a few years. So I've chatted to him about that life, which is super interesting. But anyway, here we go from Alaska now. They've actually just called off. They've cancelled the entire season where they go and harvest snow crabs, which I think a lot of people might be exposed to through that TV show where they follow them on boats. I haven't really watched it, but it seems like a cool TV show. They follow the boats and they go and harvest crabs and stuff like that. Yeah, they've cancelled it. They've said, no, it's not happening this year because the population has declined. In 2 years, it's gone down 90%. That's pretty fucking catastrophic. And this is, I like to highlight these stories again. This is food that we're talking about here, but this is also almost an extinction level event that's happening for these crabs. 90% of their population being wiped out in 2 years, or declining in 2 years. Not 100% sure what's happened there. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. And on top of this, we see it's something up around 68, 69, I think, 70%, 69. It's 69%. Grow up, Gads. Come on, man. This is serious shit. 69% of global wildlife populations have declined since 1970. So, I don't know what the official definition of decline is, but it could just be 1%. But that's what we're seeing there. Over 2/3 of the population of wildlife on Earth has decreased in the last 50 years. Pretty disturbing. I was reading another story this morning. I didn't snap a picture of it to talk about it, but it was talking about this extinction event that we're sort of going through at the moment, which is interesting on the perspective because we've had extinction events happen on Earth at least 5 or 6 times, I want to say, that we've had almost all life on Earth wiped out for various reasons. The difference with this one is that they feel that it's going a lot slower. From the standpoint of the timeline of Earth, I don't know how this could be slow. Like 50 years, it seems pretty fast to me. It seems pretty fucking fast. If everything else happened under 50 years, like, man, that must have been very fucking quick. Anyway, populations of wildlife and such what declining, and especially food. We're looking at food there. So I always like to highlight the food industry, the food system that we have, and the problems, the issues that it is now experiencing. And that should be lodged in our brains by now. And we really should be actively working to secure our own food supply as much as possible, whatever that looks like for you. So if that's, growing a full garden in your backyard, digging up your grass and planting, a whole heap of food, if it's even getting in some sort of wildlife, like, not wildlife, some sort of livestock like chickens or maybe even goats or something, that could be you. Or if it's just doing herbs in pots on your balcony, that's all you can do, then do that. Whatever you can do that now. Like right now. Don't faff around with this. Don't sit there and wring your hands and go, the food supply is going down. Do something about it. I was explaining, I'm teaching a course at the moment, and somebody actually asked at the end of the course, which is a really good question, like, hey, how do you stay so situationally aware and not become an anxious person? And I said, well, as far as I look at it, the anxiety is the difference between your perceived level of ability and your perceived level of threat. So when you see a whole heap of threat in the world and you go, oh, shit's bad, danger, Will Robinson, and then your ability, what you feel you can do about that is less, that distance between those 2 points, that's anxiety. So do things that increase your perceived level of ability. So your level of ability to feed yourself. And if you can only grow herbs in a friggin' pot in your on your balcony, then do that, because that is valuable learning. You will learn so much from growing food. I guarantee it. Even if you're the kind of person like myself who is constantly killing plants because you're fucking it up. Don't worry about that. That's all learning. Just do it, all right? Just get out there and start doing it. I don't know what you're going to do today, but schedule in an extra 15 minutes to swing by the massive warehouse, store that sells plants and shit. I'm not going to name them, but you know what I'm talking about. Go and get some dirt, get a pot, and buy some herbs from there. I don't care if it's shitty herbs or whatever. And, feel free to throw up comments like, oh, don't buy from them. It's GMO, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Just grow something. Just get out there and grow something now. Death, that Insta-chick says, death for a rebirth, destruction for creation, Ragnarok, Kali Yuga, the rapture. Yes, I guess. I mean, we're in it. The reason you can point out things like this now, or I think a good reason to point out things like this now, is that we have a roadmap of what to do when disaster strikes through various or all religions. Every religion has an end time to it. Every, I won't say every religion, but every thematic or story-based religion that we have has a story of destruction in it. So us sitting here going like, the world is ending, the world is everything's crashing, everything's going to shit. Yeah, okay, it is. But we've got a myriad of stories that show us how to get through a disaster. And some of them are a bit like, well, just put your faith in old mate, blah, 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 and you get through. And others are like, well, do this or do that and you'll get through. But at the end of the day, people get through. People get through these disasters and we can get through it, but we can't do it by sitting on our hands. That's one thing that is for sure. Peter Rouse says 2038, that should be. Should be what? What's 2038? Explain. Is that the year? What are you talking about there? Please explain. All right, let's talk about nuclear war. Because why not? Hey! Read comment above. I can't see a comment above Peter. The first comment I can see is 2038, that should be. If there is another comment, it's certainly not in my YouTube. Maybe the ghost in the machine is blocking that comment. But please put that comment back up because you always say very interesting things, Peter, and I would love to read it. All right. Putin has deployed 11 bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons just a few miles from the border with NATO. Always issues. On top of this, 2 Russian bombers were warned off Alaska, off U.S. airspace. They were flying around Alaska, and U.S. Air Force was was flying around and just caught them because they were out there and no one knew, apparently, which I found very interesting. I'm like, oh, okay. We still have that ability to fly planes around and no one knows. So yeah, again, the tensions. It's all just interesting stuff. They're just feeding us this little fear trickle. Or it's not even a trickle now. It's like faux gras fear, where we're the hapless ducks with funnels in our mouths and they're just cramming the fear down our throats. And I'm adding to it by talking about nuclear shit. But, it's good to know this stuff still. This one I think is interesting. There's a couple of little subplots that are going on here. And why I'm talking about nuclear this morning is that there are some signs that something's going on in Ukraine at the moment. I'm not sure what it is, but if you start collecting all the news stories, things like this, where someone's put out that that Putin's moving bombers closer to NATO lines. That doesn't say anything in of itself. It doesn't say he's got nuclear weapons there. It just says bombers that could have nuclear weapons. It doesn't say that they have them. But, interesting that's happening. Western officials are making plans to avoid panic if Russia uses a nuclear bomb in Ukraine. So just log that one. Put a pin in it, actually, because I'll cycle back around to this. So this was governments that were, some information came out, that public information about campaigns where they're going, hey, similar to what we saw in New York City a month or two ago, where they're like, hey, we're making plans, don't worry about it. If a nuclear bomb's used, we're going to sort it. Western governments are obviously pretty worried about what the reaction would be, because the reaction would be fucking catastrophic. Like a nuclear bomb, yep, that's catastrophic in of itself. The human reaction, and I always say this, doesn't matter what the disaster is, the human reaction is almost always much worse, like orders of magnitude worse. So the panic that would come out from a N-bomb being dropped would be just like worldwide. That would be catastrophic. Okay, on top of this, we had China sent a warning. They've sent a few warnings now. They sent another one in the past couple of hours out to their people in Ukraine saying, hey, be ready to evacuate. Start thinking about getting out now. In fact, like if you're not essential, maybe get out of country. Is that all? No. There's a few other countries that are doing it. So China did it. They were probably the big one. Greece, Egypt, Serbia, Jordan have all issued warnings to their people saying, skedaddle out of Ukraine now. Things getting hectic there. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, okay, what's going on in Ukraine here? And why is this information getting passed out? And why is this getting ramped up? There's a couple other things that are stories that I'm not even going to bother talking about, but it's all adding into this, that what we're seeing is at least somebody wants us to know that something's about to go down, that the potential is there that something's about to go down. Danielle Moreau asked, did Putin declare martial law today? Putin declared martial law in the parts of Ukraine that Russia has annexed. So he's declared martial law. He's signed off on that, which basically means it facilitates their ability to mobilize military within that area. That's the way I read it, at least. Peter Rouse says, yeah, martial law only in areas under attack due to recent terrorist attacks. Yeah, it's not martial law all throughout Russia. It's in the annexed parts of Ukraine. And there are some effects in the Russian bordering areas of Ukraine as well, according to my understanding, at least, of it. And like I said, this is more a easing the facilitation of military movement within those areas so that they can start to build up military forces in those areas easier. Not like they weren't already, but they can do it on probably a larger scale. Missed one here. Peter Rouse also says, was not US airspace, was Alaskan defense zone not the same? Yeah. Good evening, says Caspian Wolfer. It's very much morning here. It's very early morning, in fact, quarter to 7. Not very early morning, but quarter to 7 in the AM. Russia is like Mordor from Lord of the Rings, and Putin is Sauron. Ukraine is Gondor. Interesting analogy. I guess you could see it that way. I'm not so sure about that, but one thing I will actually comment on this. This is just this is a hot take, right? And I'm just waxing lyrical off the top of my head here. So feel free to shoot this down, as you can shoot down anything that I say. One thing I notice, I'm a big fan of the story. Okay, I believe in the power of stories, and I think stories are very important for us as human beings. And so I constantly read, right? I love stories. I love literature. I love art. I love TV. I love movies. One thing I've been noticing is that I'm watching the change from the stories I grew up with in the 80s, where things were clearly black and white. There was a good guy, there was the bad guys, there was terrorists or whoever they were fighting. And sometimes you had a little bit of murkiness, but that murkiness has been getting more and more. And I watch shows now, and I'm like, they love the TV shows where it's like, ooh, is this person good? Is this person bad? Like, what's the thing here? What's going on? And it's all sort of mixed. I'm like, that's okay. Like, that's real life. It's good to reflect that sort of stuff. However, the opposite then is becoming more and more true, in my view, at least, in reality, in actual real world fighting, where we like long time ago, it was pretty easy. Like, bang, got the Nazis, and we've got to go fight them, and we'll win. And then it was not so clear. And the wars, I think, that as they were going on, we could see that who is the good guys and who is the bad guys now. And I fought in some of these wars. I've fought in war, and even I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get what side I'm on and why I'm doing it. But like, are we doing the right thing here for the greater good? Like, are we securing freedom across the world, or what's actually happening here? It's grey. It's really grey. And now what I'm seeing in the media is painting this picture that it's not grey. It is black and white. It is as black and white as it could be. You are this side or you are that side. And I'm like, I don't know. Reality is the grey part. TV shows is where we should be having the black and white thing. Like, that should be the hero riding in and saving the day or whatever. And I'm just seeing that sort of that inversion. Anyway, that's my little rant, wax lyrical. I've got a whole heap of stories to get through, and I'm sitting here talking shit, and I don't have a lot of time this morning, so I don't know why I'm talking about this crap. Yeah, so Caspian says, I'm in Azerbaijan. Ah, cool. Interesting. Fascinating. What's going on in that part of the world? I'm disappointed because of Elrond and Galadriel and Celebrimbor and Gilgalad. Always struggle with the Elvish names. I'm in Australia, by the way, so not the opposite part of the world, but pretty close, pretty far away. And I'd love to know if you've seen that new Amazon series that is labeling itself Lord of the Rings. I don't want to call it Lord of the Rings. It's roughly associated to it. It is inspired, I think, by it. But if you've read the Silmarillion, then you might find it a bit hard to actually wrap your head around and say, yeah, this is definitely Lord of the Rings. I think it just borrows some of the characters from it. Anyway, let's continue on, because let's talk about diesel, because this is a something that's near and dear to my heart because I drive a diesel vehicle. You heathen! How dare you? That's not electric. But I do. That's what I do. And so, it affects me day to day, as it affects a lot of people. In fact, if you think that you're like above diesel fuel, you're not. I'm sorry to say, but you're not, because diesel fuel literally moves every freaking thing in our society. If you're living in Australia, if you're living in New Zealand, if you're living in the US, if you're living in the UK, anywhere in Europe, in fact, pretty much anywhere in the world, diesel moves our world. And like I always like to say, all the shit here, everything, what you're looking at right now, all this was brought to you by diesel. It all came on a truck somewhere, and that truck did not run on hopes, dreams, and unicorn farts. It ran on diesel. Even this coffee here that I'm drinking came to me by diesel. So diesel is important. So what's going on with diesel? Not good things, very, very bad things. This was first, a few of these stories were sent to me by one of my main sources, who sends me stuff through Instagram. And I'll just quickly flick through all these. What do we got here? Global diesel chaos. Global diesel chaos coming from Bloomberg. Physical supplies of fuel are commanding high premiums. Scarce supply and high prices risk fanning global inflation, because this is one of the key points. It's not just fuel going up. It's not just the diesel price. And I had a little story, or I put a reel or something about how I just paid $150 to fill my ute up. It's more than that. All right, that's a pain in the ass, yeah. But like I said, everything comes on a truck. So if it costs more to ship everything costs more. You see how that works? This thing increases. This is like the foundation propping up inflation right now. And it ain't going away, and it ain't getting better. Why is it not getting better? Because large parts of the world, including Europe, rely on Russian diesel. And they've all said unanimously, no, sorry, they have not said unanimously, because there are parts of Europe that really do not want sanctions on Russia anymore, because it is crippling them. They understand the basic maths behind this. And they're saying, hey, we need to stop this. We need to stop this madness. So huge percent of, what are we talking about? 75% in some parts of Europe rely on Russian diesel. So that's not coming anymore. So that's obviously going to increase price. It's going to increase demand, which is increasing price. Less supply, more demand. You know how this works. That's going to drive up price. Who cares? I hear you say, who cares about the price of diesel in Europe? Well, everyone cares, because Europe buys up everything and they have more money than everyone else. And so they drag the price of everything up. When something moves in Europe, it moves everywhere. But there's more. There's more to this. UK is holding talks on how to avoid blackouts because they've already flagged this. They've already said this. UK, hey, we're going to have blackouts. They're already warning their population out. Blackouts coming this winter. There will be periods of time where you will not get electricity. That's a problem within itself. But they've talked about how they can keep things running. What do we need to keep running? What's the most important thing? Is it food? No. Is it water? No, not even. It's data. Right. Sorry, data. It's data. Data centers need to keep running. Which is actually kind of true. These things go down and catastrophe looms beyond it. It seems silly, and it is in reality. Food, water, these sorts of things we should be thinking about. Heating human beings, keeping people warm. Yep, that should be important. But data centers are actually looking at this and going, all right, our server farms, they can't do without power. They just can't. We need that power. So we're going to just generate that power ourselves. How do you generate power? Well, you use a little product called, you guessed it, diesel. Right. So they're going to be buying up freaking huge amounts of diesel to keep the lights on, to keep the data centers running so we can have those servers running, because we can't not let the Bitcoin keep flowing. That would be a catastrophe. Quote, there are between 400 and 600 commercial data centers in Britain alone, and they account for about 2.5% of the country's electricity demand, according to the National Grid. Operators often have their own backup generators that can run for as many as 72 hours, 3 days. But businesses and officials have discussed the security of supplies in scenarios where disruptions worsen. Read the subtext here. They're going, oh, yeah, we're going to buy up diesel. So, you're a smart human being. We need to start figuring this shit out. Okay, we need to think about that long term. Diesel prices are going to go up. We need to secure some more diesel for ourselves now if we rely on it. We need to figure out a way maybe to create our own diesel, which we can do. It can be done. But what's the subtext here? They have the ability already to last 3 days without electricity. And they're saying we need to secure more. They're telling us right now, if you were in the UK, you should be reading this and going like, okay. So they're saying that 72 hours is not enough. They're saying that 72 hours without electricity is not enough. They're basically saying that there is a very real potential that they could be without power for more than 3 days. Are you prepared right now to be without power for more than 3 days? That's something that I would encourage you to ask yourself. Yesterday, I'm away from home and I get a call and it's like, hey, the power is out. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that scheduled power outage. I totally forgot about it. Cool, it's fine. Everything was fine. It lasted 8 hours or 9 hours or something, or not even. They got it done. But I had the backups there ready to go. Things could be switched over. If it had gone any longer, 1 minute over that, then I would have said, flick the switch and everything goes to my backup power generation, which is solar mainly. Do you have that? Do you have that ability? What if you had 4 days without electricity right now? What would happen to everything in your fridge? What would happen to everything in your freezer? What would happen to anything that requires electricity? Does your water require electricity to get pumped into your taps? Many people now do. So really put some thought into that. I missed a couple of comments. I do apologize. Let me try and catch up very quickly. Caspian Woofer from Azerbaijan says, Azerbaijan and Armenia are going to sign a peace treaty, hopefully. I hope so too. There's been, I have talked about this in the past, the fighting that's been happening in this part of the world. And again, mainly ignored by a lot of Western people, unfortunately. I have several friends who have spent quite a lot of time in Azerbaijan, And so it is something that is logged in my mind. I'm like, hey, I don't know this part of the world. I haven't been there, but I know it through secondhand sources. And like this fighting is real and has been happening for a long time in this part of the world. And so I do hope that they do come to some peaceful resolution there, because this is yet another flashpoint that I keep talking about in the world. We're focused on Ukraine. There are other conflicts going on in the world right now, and we really need to take in the holistic look of it to be best prepared. Australia, we don't have any neighbors like Russia. No, we don't have any neighbors. Our neighbors are great white sharks. Our closest neighbor, I think, is Papua New Guinea. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, East Timor, and then we got our cuzzy bros, New Zealand, down there, keeping a beer in the chili bin for us. But yeah, we don't have to. We won't get invaded by land. I'll put it that way, unless Western Australia finally does secede from us and then decides to take it toe to toe. What else we got here in the comments? Peter Rouse says, I only buy diesel. Last time at the gas station cost me $500. That's not dollaroos. That's Kiwi dollars, I believe, which is, they're probably pretty close right now. Man, the Aussie dollar has been freaking just going like tanking at the moment in comparison to the US dollar. I saw 1,500 liters, yet that may not be enough. Yeah. I'm about a third of that. I would say about 500 liters in various different ways in different areas. But I am experimenting with biodiesel as well for a pinch, like not as a main source, but in a pinch. S. Wood says, here in London, I don't assume that's the way you talk, but whenever I hear someone's from London, I just assume it's the Queen's English. Here in London, we got smart meter. 2-bedroom house, quite small, is costing us £8 a day for gas and electricity with no heating on. £8 a day. Let's extrapolate that out. So 100 days would be £800. 300 days, we would be at £2,400. So let's make it £2,500-ish pounds. £2,500 a year, maybe £2,600 a year. Let's say I haven't looked at the conversion rate, but I usually, whenever I'm thinking about pounds, I just go 2 to 1 to Aussie dollaroos. $5,000 a year. That would break people. That would utterly break people. Let's continue on with this diesel. Diesel hits chaos mode in fresh blow to global economy. It's extremely tight. End user stocks are extremely low. This coming from a veteran oil consultant turned hedge fund manager. I haven't finished yet. Traders divert Europe-bound diesel to the US in race to restock. Why are they restocking? Why isn't it going to the US where it's sorely needed, as I just talked about? Because Biden admin to announce another 15 million barrel of the reserve, of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, to be released. When are they going to release that? Conveniently, just before the midterm elections. Any other country in the world goes out, any other person in the world goes out in any country and says, voters, if you vote for me, I will give you money. I will buy this for you. I will do this for you. And we would say that is fucking corrupt. That is absolute corruption. You cannot openly buy votes. Anyway, I don't live in America. Not my monkey, not my circus. So that's where diesel's at this morning. Fun times. If you're like me, you own a diesel vehicle or vehicles and other things that operate on diesel. That's what we're looking down the barrel of. It's not going to get any easier, my friends. Not any easier. Peter Rouse says $1,000 per month here for our electricity. Yep. Again, it ain't getting any easier. I wish I could say, like, hey, I see light at the end of this tunnel. I don't. I honestly don't. And I think it's important. I'm not saying that to scare the shit out of people. I'm saying that it's important to be real about the world, to not fantasize about things, to not fantasize about like, well, we can all just go green. Maybe we can. I just can't see how that happens right now. What we actually need to do is accept the reality that is offered to us. What is being offered to us, and go, okay, I see that. I see this reality. I see these prices going up, and I see them increasingly going up for the near future, at least. What can I now do about that? Again, increasing my perceived ability to deal with the threats that I'm faced with. All right, let's weather effects. Let's talk about flooding that's been happening in Victoria, in Australia. A lot of floods have been going on there. A lot of rain that's been smashing into the east coast of Australia. But this flooding, what's the important part of the flooding that got pointed out to me by, again, one of my sources on Instagram? Residents stocking up on groceries, freaking out, doing the buy-ups. Get ahead of the curve. You should have enough food in your house to shut the doors for 3 weeks. That's the kind of minimum standard that I say. If you shut your doors right now in your house and did not leave your house for 3 weeks, you should have enough stuff on hand to get you through. What's being brought up? Food and, some medical stuff, but surprise, surprise, guess what's back on the list? Somebody please put a comment in. Guess what people are panic buying when it comes to a flood? I'll leave it with you for a second. This one's a total WTF moment. Boston lab has created a new deadly COVID strain with an 80% kill rate. Why? S. Wood, Norman Lacey, and Layman's Grove have said, what are people buying up in a panic? Toilet paper. Correct. You are all correct. And I'm stupefied by the entire thing. I'm just like, why? Why don't you have toilet paper in your house? You don't have to have that much, but like, just have a little bit in your house, right? Yeah, that's just another WTF moment. Bloody, why are we fucking with this shit? Japan considers removing 60-year-old limit on nuclear plant operations. So they've got a law or a limit where they say, hey, 60 years, and then like the plant has to like wind down, and we have to retrofit it, and we have to build a new one or whatever. They're saying there's a number of plants that are coming up to that expiry date, and they're going, hey, we were thinking we'd probably move away from nuclear. We're not going to do that anymore, and we're going to expand that time period, the 60-year limit. So plants can now operate beyond 60 years in Japan. German Chancellor, orders extension of 3 remaining nuclear plants. So Olaf Scholz has ordered the country to prepare to extend the life of its 3 remaining nuclear power plants past April 15th, 2023. This is all because Greta said it was okay now. So we're all cool. Greta gave the thumbs up, guys. It's close. I've said this before. I don't see another way we can continue to operate as the society that we are now without nuclear. I don't see another way around it, because, like I'm saying, with diesel, with coal fuel, with where we're going with the green ideology, and And again, I am a huge fan of green technologies. Like I said just before, my backup power generation ability is solar. My next house will have a lot of solar and a lot of batteries in it. It will still be connected to the fucking grid though, because I'm a realist. I know where how much electricity we actually utilize and where it comes from and how solar works. I can't see another way past nuclear, to be honest, for a lot of countries in the world. I'm not going to talk about that. Gazprom CEO says all Nord Stream natural gas, could be redirected to Turkey. This a couple of days ago. Well, they just signed off on that Turk Stream nat gas pipeline. Turkey, Russia, just made the connection. Turkey has made overtures towards wanting to be the southern gas point for Europe. Now, conveniently, because Nord Stream was blown up, they're probably going to be the gas stream for Europe. So all gas will flow through, not all gas, but a huge amount of gas will flow through Turkey, and Turkey now has the pivot point. They're the key point for that gas. So let's see how that works out. Whether Europe, in their sanctions on Russia, go, oh, Russian gas bad. Oh, but Turkey, you're our friends. Yeah, we'll buy your gas. Meanwhile, Turkey's obviously getting it from Russia. So, hey, everyone wins, right? Europe gets gas. Turkey gets buoyed up out of their economic catastrophe that their current leader seems hell-bent on putting them into. But then, oh, look, now we can get gas. We can get cheap gas from Russia. Russia gets to sell their gas. Win-win. Moral consciences get, turned off for a second. It's all fine. Let's talk about Australia for a second, and some good news. Australia challenges China in mining for essential elements. So this is from the BBC, and it was sent to me by, again, my same main source from Instagram. Just talking about some rare earth elements that Australia has, that we are in a good position. And I've said this a couple of times, that Australia is in a relatively good position if we're looking at many of the catastrophes that are looming at the moment in the world. We actually sit in a pretty good position. And that isn't, I'm not saying that so we can sit on your hands and do nothing. I'm saying that as in, hey, don't freak out. Continue with the plan. Create the plan of how to become a more safe, self-sustainable human being and continue doing it. We have time. There's still food in the supermarkets. Prices are going up, but they're not astronomical yet. We can still do stuff. And moving forward into the future, we will still be able to do stuff. Did the whiskey and prepping live the other day. We had a few questions, and I got the vibe that there are some people out there who are like, it's all going to fucking hell in a handbasket. Sell the wife, sell the kids, sell the house, sell the dog, sell everything, move to the fucking wilderness with your shotgun, and that's it. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes on that, doomsday prepper. Put down the tinfoil hat for a second. Things are going bad, yes, but there's a trajectory of it. Sometimes it rapidly goes up, but let's just continue to work to our plans, because Australia is going to be in a better position. We do have ability to grow our own food. We grow more food than we eat in this country. We have resources in this country. We have things like iron ore and coal that we export en masse, and we have things like rare earth elements that the world desperately needs. What do they need them for? How about electronic vehicles for starters? Wind turbines for another one. Oh, here's a good one. In a time of war and menace, the valuable metals, like these metals, like these rare earth resources that we have strategic value and are used in fighter jets, guided missiles, and drones, along with other high-tech equipment for space exploration. So yeah, we're sitting in an okay position here with these things. A little bit of good news for Australians. Ooh, yeah. Peter Rouse says, Russia caught them trying to blow up Turk Stream. I have not seen anything on that. Feel free to flick me through any stories you got on that, because that's interesting. Layman's Grove says, I've got around 150 rolls of toilet paper in my apocalypse pantry. Awesome. yeah, I don't know how many rolls I've got. I don't think it'd be 150, but you know, I just go to Costco or whatever and just buy up one or two of those big ones, and that does us for a while. All right, what else have we got here? Thinking about wrapping this up sometime soon. Where are we at the timeometer? I can't even. Let me just move you around Instagram. 45 minutes. God damn it. That's not half an hour. All right, let's get through this last little stuff. BBC prepares secret scripts for possible use in winter blackouts. Already talked about this, but now BBC is reporting on themselves. This is actually coming from The Guardian, but BBC, it got leaked out that BBC has these secret scripts that they're going to be putting out to help ease the panic that would be coming from these deep dark winters blackouts that they're facing. This was an interesting mysterious defense secretary trip to Washington amid fears of Russian escalation. So again, what I was talking about this morning with the nuclear sort of stuff, where we had a secretive last minute nature. The secretive last minute nature of the trip, and a comment by a second defense minister, James Heapy, who said the conversation Mr. Wallace would be having on Tuesday were beyond belief, quote, beyond belief, suggested particularly sensitive and serious issues would be discussed. No further information has come out about what it was. But this is obviously eyes on Ukraine. We've got Ukraine ministers, we've got UK ministers, we've got other NATO allied countries that are having meetings that are talking quite high level, and add that into the mix of what I was talking about this morning with this posturing, this moving, these signals that are coming out to certain countries like, hey, you might want to get out of Ukraine very, very soon. Let's talk about comms and GPS to wrap up today. How secure are the communications that we have? How does the internet work? Do you know that, how the internet works? How does Australia get the internet? Does it just magically float through the fucking air, and then we just got something that like sucks up internet? Well, maybe, sort of. If you've got if you've got Starlink, you could describe it like that, sort of. But really, it comes to us through a cable. We like to think that the internet is a magic thing that floats through the air and it's all just 5G magic. But really, it's just old school technology. It flows through cables, massive undersea cables that can be disrupted, can be tapped, can be destroyed. So, is there any other undersea cables or pipelines that have been destroyed? Do we know that can happen? Oh yes, we do know that could happen. This is some media that was actually coming out, and it's to do with US Naval Institute was actually putting out this information. So again, I'm always interested at the subtext, or the like, why are they putting out? It's not just the story itself. It's like, why are they putting this story out now? Maybe they're sort of like laying some foundation here, like, hey, these sorts of things could happen. We need to be wary of this. What should the US do when the transoceanic submarine fiber optic cables that supply at the speed of light more than 99% of the international voice, data, video, and internet communications between the United States and the rest of the world are damaged or cut during wartime? What will we do then? Declare an emergency? Then what? Would that be an act of war? That's immediately where my mind jumped with this. I'm like, okay, US Naval is putting this out. What are they saying? They're getting people to think about it. They're getting people to get scared about it. Then maybe if it does happen, they go, act of war, bang. And the people are like, yes, absolutely, act of war. I can't get my TikToks. It's a desperate time. God. How am I supposed to access weather? What do you mean I have to look out my window? Oh, fuck, that doesn't tell me a number. Interesting stuff though, and very, very much within the realm of possibility that these cables could be cut. In fact, this actually happened in Tasmania not too long ago, accidentally. Peter Rouse, do links work in here? No idea. No idea. You're asking the wrong person. I know so very little about YouTube. It's actually embarrassing. I'm still trying to figure out YouTube. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos about YouTube, and I still don't know how to use YouTube correctly. Apologies. But no, I don't know if links work here, but you can send me a link via Instagram if you wish. GPS signal jamming causes flights to be rerouted around Dallas-Fort Worth Airport in Dallas, Texas. So what's going on here? They don't know. They don't know why the GPS is not working here. There is some suspicions that it might actually have something to do with 5G. Terrible. Huh. Or maybe somebody's actually actively jamming GPS signals. That's really interesting. Remember, like, when Russia was jamming Starlink all throughout Ukraine? And then we just found out that Ukraine just wasn't paying their bill. I found that funny. Also, GPS issues. Why is GPS like important? If you don't know how important GPS is to our world, you should really start researching it. It is catastrophic if we lose the ability to GPS locate stuff. So, like, I look at stories like this and I'm like, yeah, it affects planes and stuff like that. I'm like, if there was wide-scale GPS issues, it would be utterly catastrophic. Utterly catastrophic. Like, huge problems. Here's another example of it, though, on a very, very small scale. John Deere GPS-dependent farm equipment failures are also being reported. So this is actually every day between noon and 3 p.m. They lose the GPS signal. This is important because some of that farming equipment, they're moving towards automated farming equipment, so it's just doing its own thing. And you think about the world, like how much stuff actually requires GPS now just to operate, just to move. A lot. and we're moving to a more automated world that's reliant on GPS. So we're seeing failures in it already. That's not a great sign. But again, one thing I like to teach about technology. I love technology. I love new technology. I love new toys and things like that. I love new GPS stuff. I love playing with all the mappage and all sorts of things, right, to do with GPS. However, my experience in reality of technologies, the more sophisticated the technology, the more likely it is to fail you when you need it. That's my personal anecdotal experience, by the way. It's not scientifically tested in any way, but it's like at that point where I'm like, okay, I absolutely need this. I'm like, why you no work, yeah? Never works. Peter Rouse says, I posted the link above, obviously does not work. Yeah. Bummer. Yes, I cannot see a link. Anyway. Yeah, Ukrainians never paid for Starlink. Yep. Also, Russians did jam Starlink at the front line. Yeah, there was reports that all of Ukraine Starlink was jammed by Russia. And when that came out, I was like, that's super interesting. I'm not sure how you would do that. I can see you doing it on a small scale. I can't see you doing it on an entire country or keeping it within a country's borders if you were doing it somehow. So I thought that was an interesting story. But then it obviously came out that they're like, hey, Starlink's a company, kind of, needs money to keep running. So maybe pay. All right. Could be an idea. UK Home Secretary just resigned. UK government in big trouble. Yes, I did see that. Didn't really want to go into it today, but it is something that's interesting that's going on there. Their PM is under fire. There are calls for a resignation of the PM there might be a spill there within the UK in the not too distant future. And I'm talking in the next 24, 48 hours, we could see something happen, but certainly within the next week or month. And a name that has been bandied around, he's back. Bojo. Funny stuff. So Liz Truss is under a lot of fire at the moment, a lot of heat. Again, not my monkey, not my circus, but I like to point these sort of things out because of the turmoil that's happening in our world at the moment. We're seeing this political turmoil that is widespread throughout our world at the moment. A lot of issues going on there. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one as well. Thanks for pointing that one out, Peter. All right, gang, I've got to wrap it up there because I've got stuff and things to do. Got to work today. So I'm going to go jump into that. As always, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This has been a long one, but it's been a few days coming. So I wanted to get through a lot of stuff and kind of clear this. This stuff sits in the back of my mind, and it starts to build up after day. And I'm like, I've got to talk about this on a SitRep. So Atlas is now shrugging and getting all that shit off my back, and I can walk around the world feeling like, hopefully I did something good for the world today, as in talking to you guys and helping, hopefully inspire you to be more prepared individuals, thinking about the things that might happen and how we can best prepare ourselves to be more self-reliant human beings. All right, that's it. 20th of October, 2022, in the books, logged. It'll be up there in the stories somewhere on YouTube, maybe. I don't know how you access old ones on YouTube. Again, I don't know how YouTube works. But yeah, thanks for joining me, gang. Thanks for all the comments, everyone. Thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate it. Have an awesome day. Remember, try and get in the gardens, get some food growing if you can. And apart from that, as always, Semper Paratus.